Este é um trecho da entrevista exibida no canal Entidades. O link da entrevista completa está na descrição do vídeo.
Because I just was thinking about that. Here in Brazil, there's this huge discussion because many people with dark entities are considered with psychiatric disorders.
Yes.
And you're a psychologist.
Yeah.
How can we discern whether it's a real disorder or some sort of contact or entity attachment or attack? Or how do we discern through all that?
I'm sorry to say that 99.99% of the time, mental disorders are due to entities. We just don't realize. And so what I wanted to say when I was younger, what I realized is that I could see the subtle energy, like I could see these beings. In addition, I wasn't just sensing them, I could see them, I could hear them. So I realized that because of that, I could discern the different energies as I was working with different people. So sometimes a person would say, I would work with a schizophrenic person who's a schizophrenic. There was always an entity attached to them. And so, but what's so interesting is that I noticed that, again, 99% of the people with mental illnesses are the most sensitive. So it starts out of them being very, very sensitive. So their mind channels are tapping into everything, right? So if there's an entity passing by and they talk to you, because you're sensitive, you're going to hear it. But your human mind comes in and says, oh, I'm hearing voices, but there's nobody there. I must be crazy. And so the sensitive people are attracting these different experiences. They're hearing things, they're seeing things, but they don't know how to manage it. So they start drinking and they start doing drugs because they cannot cope with all the bombardment of energies that they can't see. And the more you drink, the more you do drugs, the more you're open to more entities. And eventually you do this for a few years, then you go to the doctor, you're like, I don't know what's going on, I can't manage this. Most schizophrenics are alcoholics or have some other drug addiction because they're trying to find a way to cope with all of these things. And so then eventually they go to the doctor and they start, they think they have a mental disease, but almost always it starts out like that. Isn't that sad? People who have major anxiety, people who have OCD, people who have who are bipolar, and of course, chronic depression. Suicidal thoughts, it's 110% of the time, it's an entity. It's an entity telling you, okay, it's time to leave the body. It's enough. Let me just kill myself and be done with it. All suicides.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yes, I'm telling you, it's so sad because it's not even like, it's not even a disease, to be honest. It's just, they just don't know how to cope with it. And especially suicide and depression, because human nature by nature wants to self-preserve, wants to thrive. The DNA wants to live. It doesn't, in other words, the DNA itself contains the frequency of self-preservation, of self-love. It doesn't know to self-destruct. So it doesn't have that encoding to self-destruct. It's the opposite. That's why we grow, we expand, the physical body, you grow older and, so that's all evolving. It doesn't know how to self-destruct. So when you have a thought of self-destruction, didn't come from you.
Wow, amazing. Annie here has a question.
Na verdade, muitos casos que são atendidos em hospitais psiquiátricos como esquizofrenia, são, na verdade, casos de mediunidade ostensiva e que a medicina simplesmente tenta suprimir através de medicamentos e, na verdade, abre mais o canal e deixa a pessoa sem o controle físico, às vezes, do próprio corpo.
Saying that here in Brazil, it's very common when someone is diagnosed with this very strong medium abilities, psychic abilities, they are diagnosed as schizophrenic.
Yes.
And they're usually medicated.
Yes.
But the medication actually opens the ability, and the person loses the ability to control the skills. So it gets even worse when you take any kind of medication for that.
Of course, because technically there's nothing wrong with you. It's not, we forget that it's not the brain. Of course, now we think it's the brain because when they do some sort of whatever, they do tests and stuff, they see that the brain is malfunctioning or doing some crazy stuff, or even the chemistry in the brain is not working or is off. But you are not your brain. You are your consciousness. It's the consciousness, your consciousness that is receiving the information. Oh, I'm tapping into something. Oh, I'm hearing voices. It's your consciousness that is putting the information in the brain and affecting the brain. But of course, the psychiatrist or the medical doctor is just going to study your brain and is going to say, oh, the chemistry is off. Let me fix the chemistry, or blah, 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 So that's how medical doctors know how to fix things. So they're fixing on a chemical, electrical level, when in fact, it's your consciousness is still tapping into everything. And now it's worse because, the brain is now responding to yet another artificial, pill or whatever. It's crazy. And it's so sad,
It's sad.
It's very sad. And I want to say along the same lines, not just, not just mental problems, but you want to hear something interesting. I get a lot of letters from prison inmates. And I was surprised in the beginning. I was like, oh, what's going on here? And so I started to read them. And I realized actually, because, our distributor can tell us where the movie's being watched, what country or whatever. And we saw there's like a huge chunk of, that revenue, for those movies coming from the prison system. And so I thought that's interesting. So I started to read what they're writing to me, and they all tell me, your movie inspired me. So apparently there's a way for them to buy the movie. I didn't know that, but anyway. And they say, when I saw your movie, I realized that I had experiences as a child. It made me lose my balance, my ability to focus. I got in trouble because of that. And that's how a lot of, inmates are, or criminals or whatever, they have some sort of mental disability. You're not drawn to go commit a crime if you're not mentally unstable. You see how sad this is, because these guys are just originally very, very sensitive. And look where they end up.
Edição e legendas Thaís Akashemoto. Para informações sobre curso de registros akáshicos, visite akashemoto.com.br.